Hello, good morning. I'm really happy to be here once again before you to record my thoughts, impressions on International Women's Day. I'm quite possibly late by a couple of days, but still, I feel there is no good or bad time to talk about the merits of women, the praise, talk in praise of women. God, one of God's, possibly God's, the best creation, as I see. So never mind that I'm late by possibly by a day. Uh, what is the purpose of International Women's Day? Let's actually go to the basics. Um, I I for one do not particularly believe that there is a need to celebrate one particular day as an International Women's Day. In fact, it has to be the whole year, the whole of our life. I actually see woman as the best, possibly the best creation of God. Without woman, the world, let's not actually forget the basic facts that the world would not have been created without a woman. The world would not exist without a woman. The world would not be able to sustain itself without the woman, as we see. uh, I'm not trying to say that man do not really have his own merits. The gender of man, they have a lot of physical strength, but in the case of women, they are the ones who actually keep the world going in terms of moral strength that they have, the moral persuasion capacities that they have. They are the ones that they keep the world going, yeah, as we see it. I mean, it's just a free flowing talk, so I don't really have any preparation. I'm just talking whatever that comes to my mind. Things that I've been actually exercising my brain for quite a long time. I have always seen women as a superior gender for a variety of reasons. I'm not actually going into that now. I'm going to give it for a very detailed study at some other time, detailed presentation. So one of the things that I feel International Women's Day is not necessarily to claim the rights, actually. Claim the rights of woman or assert oneself, assert woman herself as a gender. I mean, that doesn't really have to be the purpose of International Women's Day. International Women's Day has to be to celebrate the creation of God, the best possible creation of God, as I said earlier, the woman. Rights. See, people would be able to get the rights. One who is able to assert himself, ask for the rights, demand the rights, would definitely get it. And even the woman would get it. And the women of the world have been getting it. It's not as if they have not actually got. Gone are those days when they used to be completely subjugated, suppressed, and they were not free to do whatever that they want. Those days are behind us, very much behind us. Those things really do not happen today. Today, to tell you the truth, the man is actually on the run. The man has to be defensive. The man has to be very careful about what he does. It's not as if he is going to have a complete free ride. Those days are really gone. Today, so that itself shows the man being okay. If somebody is going to object, let me not actually use the word man on the run. The man is defensive. The man is forced to pause and think about his own behavior. The man is forced to introspect. So that itself shows that the woman has been relatively successful in being able to assert her own rights. Okay, so uh, which is really good. So the International Women's Day doesn't really have to keep talking about all the time about the women's rights, the women being subjugated, all that. Okay, you do have Me Too movements. You do have women coming out every now and then to talk against talk against particular individual, particular man, to how they have been actually exploited, harassed, or whatever in different places, public places, office environments, and all that. So all those things are fine, but those are basically exceptions rather than rule. Okay, so let's not actually make too much of those things. I mean, issues such as Me Too movements, the emergence of Me Too movements, and people actually talking about that. Those things will go on. When people try to assert the rights, they also try to make sure that they are not exploited, they are not being taken advantage of, they are not being taken for a ride, they are not taken for granted. Okay, so those things will definitely go on. It has to go on. Let it go on. But let us actually celebrate the creation of woman for a variety of reasons, so many reasons. Um, well, In the past, women used to be treated just as a sex object, not just for sexual satisfaction of man or just a craving of man. Not just that's not what I'm actually saying. The way they were actually looked upon was just as a sex symbol, sex object, nothing more than that. That was more the fault of the man rather than the weakness of the woman. Okay, that's how the societies were there. That's how the values were. Values actually got enmeshed into the society. That's how the man was naturally inclined to see a woman in those days. Those days are definitely gone. Okay, it's not there anymore. I'll just say one or two points to emphasize, lay stress on my opinion that woman is the superior gender. Let me say, the world today we are actually seeing a war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. We have actually seen so many wars before during the Roman Empire. It was said Julius Caesar, just to prove his leadership, masculinity, and to prove that he was actually superior as a warrior, stronger as a warrior in comparison to others. The other triumvirate they used to call, one is Pompeo, the other name I forget. He just went on a conquest. Those were days when people used to go for war. And let's not actually forget the fact, in all those wars, it was only by the instigation, by the motivations of the man guided by his own ego, he actually wanted to prove himself, but so he didn't really mind killing millions of people just to prove what he was. Okay, the macho image, as we call it today, his masculinity. But that definitely lacked the moral authority or the moral compass. So, throughout history, so many wars have taken place, all only by the whimsical attitude of man, by the whims and fancies of one particular individual, one particular dictator, ruler, head of the government, head of state, whatever, at a particular point in time, just to prove his point. Finally, what came out of all that? Nothing. Just the destruction of one particular country or another. That's how it was before. Even today, it continues. Unfortunately, Putin doesn't seem to realize that those days are really past, well behind him. He still believes that he can actually prove his masculinity and macho image, live up to his macho image that he has actually entertained for himself by his conquest of invasion of Ukraine. The conquest is yet to take place, I must say. So that's essentially man's foible, man's essentially natural weakness. Man, guided by his inflated notions about himself, inflated ego, goes about destroying the world. On the other hand, have we ever seen, there have been women leaders in the world. Some of them really very good, some of them extremely competent, strong, efficient. But have they ever chosen to invade another country? See, there were three women that I would actually like to talk about on this. Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir, and Indira Gandhi. Margaret Thatcher was the leader in she was the Prime Minister of UK, as we all know. Golda Meir of Israel and Indira Gandhi of India. Now, Margaret Thatcher during her reign, she went for a war against Argentina, but that was not by her own initiative. The whole instigation for the war did not actually come from Margaret Thatcher. It was actually because the Argentinians tried to occupy the Falkland Islands, which was technically the British territory. So Margaret Thatcher had to actually show that she was not to be taken for a ride, and she was not going to actually watch it quietly. So she went on an aggressive war and she defeated Argentina. It's the same case with Israel, Golda Meir. It was not by her own initiative that she went for a war with the Arabs, and the war was actually thrust on her. It's the same case with Indira Gandhi, because millions of people came as refugees into India from Bangladesh, the erstwhile East Pakistan, in 1971. So Indira Gandhi simply did not have a choice but to go for a war. So all I'm trying to say, let's not actually go into history. I mean, that could be quite elaborate. We can talk quite a lot more on that actually. So many wars have taken place after that and before that, but none of them by the initiative or by the initiative or by the whims of a woman in charge of any government anywhere. Okay. So all I'm trying to say, physical strength would be definitely no substitute for moral strength. But moral strength and the moral compass, the woman has always had, she would always have in much greater strength and measure. Okay. So that actually makes sure that the world remains as it is, peaceful, calm, etc. relatively. Okay. Whenever the peace is spoiled, whenever the peace is disturbed, it's not by the woman, it's not by the act of the woman, it's by the act of a man at the helm of affairs, in charge in a particular country. So wanting to prove whatever that he wants to prove, however silly it is. So even though, even as a man, I think it will be a lot more credible for me to say this. I do see woman as a superior gender. Okay. Yeah, I know, and I'm very much aware that it's quite controversial for me to say that, but I do say it with all the honesty that I have and with all the emphasis that I can actually, with which I can actually say it. I cannot really stress it enough. I am a man born with 6 sisters, and I have been living with a woman for over 40 years now. And no, I cannot actually claim to have I cannot be really proud that to have a daughter, which I don't have. Anyway, that's a personal thing. All I'm trying to say is I've been actually, I have interacted a lot with women and all kinds of women, and I know them fairly well. And I had a great mother, absolutely competent, very strong, efficient, and moral, who was a great force behind my father. She was actually providing all the moral strength to my father in all his in the dealing of in his handling of all the problems that a family would face. There is another thing that I would actually like to feel like saying here, but that's actually a very important thing. The Hindu religion, perhaps I'm not really very sure about what the other religions say about the position of woman. But the Hindu religion, they say the woman is Shakti. Shakti means she is the real energy, she is the real power, she is the real strong one. Okay? And she is the one who provides Shakti to the man. Which means the woman provides a real strength for the man to act, to put into action whatever his ideas are. So there is always a woman behind the success of a man. It's actually said, and that's basically the spirit behind it. The woman being a Shakti, being the power, for providing the energy. Okay, so that's what it is. There a lot of ideas actually keep flowing. So I'm not really, in the short time that I have really available here, I'm not sure what I can say, what I cannot, and what I may tell you. But this one, I feel needs to be mentioned. It's always said the woman can endure enormous amount of physical pain, but the man cannot. Man can only fight a pain. Man cannot endure pain. Woman can endure pain, which really shows who the really stronger one is. The woman is the really stronger one. Okay, but for a very, if you take a very simplistic view of things, you may not be able to say it, you may not be able to realize it. It would be very difficult to appreciate that particular fact. If it will be real, you will find, see, even if you can actually appreciate, you cannot actually bring yourself to acknowledging it openly in public. But it is the woman, as I said earlier, who helps to sustain the world in its present form, relatively more peaceful. Okay, relatively more peaceful. And hopefully the world would remain relatively more peaceful. I mean, wars would come from time to time. It's bound to be there as long as man do not actually, men do not change their attitude, and it's very difficult. That's the way the world has been made. Actually, okay, it's an imperfect world. It's not a very perfect world. It's an imperfect world. Man will remain what he is. Woman will remain what she is, and she has to remain what she is, what she naturally is: strong, powerful, morally sound, and guiding the society. Even if her hand is not really openly seen, and there's a lot more that we can actually talk. For the moment, we'll just uh, leave it here. So essentially, emphasizing once again the fact that International Women's Day is essentially in celebration of womanhood, God's best creation, unquestionably, inarguably. Okay? Take care, all the best, bye bye.